Hi, I am Prof Dr Raghuvir Singh, Vice-Chancellor of Theerthankar Mahavir University, Moradabad. I am a management professor and have been an electrical engineer as a practitioner for 10 years in Mumbai. For the last 25 years, I am into management education. I have been to numerous institutions as a director, starting from BITS Pilani, Modi, JILM, and then my last assignment prior to this was as the Director of Business School in Manipal University, Jaipur.
Great, sir. So my first question is, what is the most important values of yours as an education leader?
I value three important things in life. One, commitment to what you do. Number two, be honest to you and your family. Number three, be prepared for failures and bounce back. Continue your journey in spite of all kinds of difficulties in life.
To ask, like, sir, how have you been keeping the learning curve successfully since the pandemic in very brief?
When the pandemic struck us somewhere around March when we were closed, for 1 week, we were completely off. After about 3-4 days, it kept me thinking, hey, life can't go this way. I can't have education disrupted because of the pandemic. Within that week, I called a meeting of my principals and administrators, online of course, to discuss how do we go about. And every one of them were aligned to my thought that we have to go online. And within 4 or 5 days, we arranged entire infrastructure which was required for online delivery. And to my surprise, the entire faculty team responded positively and really learned very fast to deliver online. There have been sudden hiccups because we being in a rural area, digital access to some of the students and some of the faculty members who are living in rural areas were difficult to have. But when I saw some of the pictures sent to me by my principals, that one of the faculty members in the hot sun is up on his rooftop of the house and an umbrella over his head, and he's delivering the session. I was mesmerized, and I was really, really moved to see his commitment towards students.
Right. So, like, any of the example, any of the story that, any of the hurdle that you faced at that time, any example, and you keep it slightly, you moved on with that.
Yeah.
This online education.
See, we had a number of hurdles, there's no doubt.
Right.
You know, when you do something new, nothing is going to be, smooth.
Right.
That when I began, I was aware of that.
Right.
Hurdles like how able the faculty be able to do it. They are not trained.
Right.
So I said, go on. You do 1, you do 2, you do 3.
Right.
In the 4th session, you will be trained.
Completely fine. You must try.
You must try. Deliver it. And you will learn every time you do it.
Right.
Same was the case with the students.
Right.
The problem of access, the problem of understanding, you see, anything new which you start, you will always have all these hiccups.
Right.
So within a week's time, students also started learning.
Right.
My administrative backup, questions of bandwidth. So I asked IT person to put the bandwidth required one and these tools. And the next question was about conducting lab work. So we used simulation. We used remote labs for which we had agreement with the IIT Kanpur. So that was taken care. And the third important aspect was examination.
Right.
Examination. How to conduct examination.
Right.
That was a big problem.
That was a big problem.
Yeah. So some ad tech companies approached us during that particular time. We tasted a couple of them. And we were more concerned about, having proctored exams. That means there should not be any copying. And luckily we found one of the edtech company providing us as a reasonable cost, your proctored exams. And for that we trained a group of faculty members who would act as a proctors. Okay, and we found that yes, large number of students did try to copy and do all those kind of things, but when we called them for the committee meetings, and they accepted that yes, they have tried to do that, they were asked to reappear in exams. Yeah, and the first time when we did this, next time that dropped substantially, and by the end of the first semester, we all have in fact mastered the technology. We had no hiccups, and thereafter the things went on quite smoothly for us.
So how much you were prepared already, like if we are not talking about pandemics and this digital infrastructure, so I'm talking to Dr. Raghuvir, I'm talking to a Vice-Chancellor of the university. Is there any, like already we are having some technology already was in university and kind of things you were used to with these things, or it was?
I wouldn't say that we were ready for online education. However, we were preparing ourselves for digital education.
Right.
Digital education, when I say, for example, asynchronous learning, we call it.
Right.
For example, every student is supposed to do at least 2 courses, online, maybe NPTEL or SWAM or edXL or whatever, a number of these platforms are available. So that was mandated. So was the case for faculty also. We were giving credit to each faculty to do courses online. That's what number one. Number two, we provided a lot of soft copies of our lectures, and also we started uploading the soft copies of our lectures on the website. So that aspect we were already preparing ourselves, but delivering synchronous lectures we were not prepared. That was the only because of the pandemic it happened.
So ultimate, like the comment is that we were ready for online education, we were not ready for digital education.
No, we were ready for digital, but not online.
Not online.
Synchronous thing was not there. Asynchronous we were ready.
So you have been a researcher by yourself, sir. What has been your success mantra and a piece of strategy for your million of followers?
See, as a researcher, I'm very clear in my mind. I need to learn the research process first. That means understand each step properly. And see, research is all about logics.
Completely right, sir.
And there are a number of methods which are available to a researcher. My experience says that large number of fellow researchers, large number of them, are unable to figure out which method to be used in what situation. So as a researcher, I advise them to first understand the process of research, methods of research, and then only start applying them for analytical tools. Unfortunately, the young who are good or comfortable with softwares or computer have a tendency to learn the analytical tool softwares first and start using it for the purpose of data analysis without realizing that data which has been collected, how authentic they are, data which they have collected, whether they are suitable for analysis or not. I'll give you one interesting instance. A friend of mine sent his one article to me to help him to find solutions to the reviewer's comments. The reviewer comment was that it appears that the paper has been written by somebody who is good at analytical tools. The researcher has not been able to understand the theoretical framework. That means he or she has not understood the words, variables and terms used in the research paper. That means literature review was not done properly, and The theoretical background was not understood. So that means the problem itself is not understood. If the problem is not understood, then what the solution is all about? Is all about.
So what was your research subject, sir?
Management is my research subjects, and when it comes to judging the quality of research, there are certain measurable metrics which we use. So for a research paper, you have one matrix. For an individual researcher, there is another matrix. For an institution, there is another matrix. Yeah. Okay. So if I'm looking for a typical research paper, right? So I like to look at how well this paper is being read or cited by my fellow researchers in that particular field. Whether this paper, research of mine or publication, falls within 1 percentile, 5 percentile, 10 percentile, or 25 percentile, top ones. That means if it is 1 percentile, that's it is the topmost research paper of mine. That is number one. Number two, when it comes to your publication, in what category of journals it is being published? The first one is whether the journal is indexed or not. There are a number of popular indexation services. For example, you have Scopus, Web of Science, PubMed, Indian Citation Index, and then UGC also has come with what you call care list. So whatever you are publishing, it is in these indexation services or not. Okay. A lot of people talk about peer review. That peer review thing over a period of time has been neglected because of various reasons. I don't want to cite now here. But indexation services. But one should be careful about predatory journals because they charge you money and their only role is to earn money. So one should be careful about that. That is your publication. The next one is about a researcher's quality. The qualitative aspect of research. How good that researcher. उनके अपने matrices. Right. For example, I-10 index is one of the metrics used. I-10 index means how many papers or publications a researcher has which at least have 10 citations for each of the paper. 10 citations. Okay. That's one index. Another one is H index. Right. That means how many papers have at least those many citations for each of the paper. That is an H index of a researcher. And the third measurement is what is an average impact factor of journals in which he has been publishing. This is of an individual. Now similarly for a department and a university. Right. So when it comes to department and university, it is H index of the university or the department, number one. Number two, what are various press mentions of their research work? How popular it is.
Right.
Isn't it?
Right.
And then there's another aspect of called patenting.
Right.
That's also part of the research here. So how many patents the university has filed, registered and awarded. Okay, that number is good, but if you're really looking for a quality, it is about TOT, transfer of technology. How many patents have actually gone to the industry?
Completely right.
Yeah, that gone to the industry, and what is the kind of revenue you have generated from those transfer of technology or a technology sale of technology. This is a matrix which is used for the research. So my advice to institutions and universities is prepare your people. That means train them on research. Unless you train them, it will be very difficult. Number one. Number two, facilitate and support them. Number three, incentivize the researchers. Yeah. So when when we recruit, you have 3 tracks of faculty, to be very frank. I could say 4 tracks. A faculty who is good in research, faculty who is good in teaching, faculty who is good as an academic administrator, and faculty who is good in outreach things. So you start actually recruiting on those counts. And then when it comes to teaching load, you decide the load accordingly. So for that, we as a university has designed a system of performance management system, wherein we have catered to all these factors and given an appropriate weightage. So it's left to the faculty what they want to do. We are looking for them to do an excellent work on any of these domains. Choice is theirs. And if you do that, I think any university or institution would be able to do a good job rather than forcing somebody on a domain where he or she is not comfortable or would not like to do it. You could be a great researcher, but you may not be able to deliver good in the classroom.
Right.
You may not be able to do outreach work, cannot communicate with the outside world, can't talk to them, convince them. So a lot of issues are there. So find appropriate tracks, give appropriate responsibility, and provide time for each of the activities.
What was your success mantra, sir, being a researcher, when you were into that?
Read, read, and read. And share, and share, and share. I had that, my research scholars, especially I recall my Manipal days. I asked a large board in my room. And after about 5 o'clock, I used to call all of them, whoever free, they used to come. So 3-4 will sit together there. And I'll then teach them every term of research, every method, discuss them, why this, why not this. Use a logic whenever you take a decision. Okay, ask them to do things. It was not that you go your way, I go my way. It was really guidance to them on research methods. And that proved to be good for all of them and for me as well. The more I started giving, more I started learning.
Most important.
Yeah, and that gave me, an ability to see beyond the wall. When you are stuck below the wall, you only know your thing. You don't know what's happening at this side.
Right.
So I started exploring more. So that made me quite comfortable in terms of methods. And then, of course, I've been delivering a lot of workshops on research methodology. So the ability to, give reasoning or logic to the decision was easy for me.
Right. With in the same sequence, like my next question is, what is the best teaching methodology for the future as well as for today? Teaching methodology, because even in the previous conversation, whenever I was in your university, then your methodology is completely different.
This is all actually student-centered or learner-centered,
Okay.
which means you have to understand the learner first.
Okay.
And you have to understand the science behind learning.
Okay.
Science behind learning. We got to appreciate the fact that each individual learns differently. I learn best by writing. You might learn best by seeing. Third person might best learn only by listening. I'm a social person, so I like to discuss and learn. But the third person is not. He wants to learn all alone. Doesn't want to get disturbed by anybody. He's not comfortable while learning with us. And best is by doing. Learning by doing. So got to have a mix of all these things in my own mind. So when you go to the classroom, right, you got to plan much before. We in our university, Theerthankar Mahavir University, have developed that system of student handouts. Every faculty is required to prepare a student handout, which means he or she student handout is nothing but the contract between the faculty and the teacher. Teacher promises that this is what he or she is going to do. At the end of the semester, he or she is going to learn these things, provided he or she follows him. So he is laid down clearly, these are my course outcomes, this is my content, right? This is how I'm going to evaluate you, and this is my learning plan day-wise. Every session, he highlights the topics which he's going to deal with, how he's going to deal with, and above all, what kind of outcomes for that particular day there are. And then we train our faculty on those perspective. So I said, okay, my mantra is vary your activities in the classroom every 10 minutes, because the attention span of a student is not beyond 10 minutes. Reduce drastically, I said drastically, your lectures. Or teacher should be speaking least in the classroom. Make your student speak or do things in the classroom. The more of you do it, better it is for the learner. And then, of course, there are deep thoughts and elaborate ways of delivering a lecture that we train our people. But first, as a leader, I need to learn all that and then deliver back to my faculty members.
So the major methodology that you said is like
Learner-centric.
right.
Understand the learner.
Understand the learner.
Vary your delivery in the classroom every 10 minutes. Involve them in learning.
Right.
Make them do things
Right.
related to the topic. Speak less as a leader, as a teacher in the classroom. Facilitate more. Guide more. What I say is, be a guide to the side. Forget being a sage on the stage. That's my mantra. And if I do that, I'm likely to have better results.
Jobs, employability.
Employability.
तो उसी के ऊपर एक क्वेश्चन करेंगे कि how do internship and on job trainings help student or industry to find niche opportunities?
Let me give a little background before we actually come on to the question. Every university or an higher education institution has three important pillars. The first pillar is knowledge dissemination. Second is knowledge creation, जिसको हम research बोलते हैं. पढ़ने वाले को teaching बोलते हैं. Third is employability and entrepreneurship. That is industry focus. So as a private university, I have to understand which pillar should I focus on. Knowledge dissemination I should not, because government universities, institutions are providing that at a dirt cheap rate. I can never compete with them. Number two, knowledge creation, that is research. Research requires large gestation period and huge investment. I think that is not feasible for us. What is left for us is employability and entrepreneurship.
Right.
That is preparing our students for jobs. Right. Now, I have a continuum, that means from lowest to highest. Where do I put these three pillars? What is currently happening? See, like a private institution supposed to be on their focus on employability and entrepreneurship.
Right.
But majorly what they are doing is 80 to 85% of the time is spent on knowledge dissemination. That's the contrast.
Right.
They need to focus more time on employability, but they are focusing more on knowledge dissemination.
Right.
So we all need to refocus ourselves. So I need to put in almost about 60 plus percentage of my time on employability and entrepreneurship. So I do restructure my entire curriculum, entire, pedagogical, that is delivery method and assessment methods.
Right.
Okay. And when I do this, preparing them for employability, employability doesn't come through lecture delivery. As I mentioned earlier in my talk, that you need to make students do things. Right? And that is where internships play a major role.
Major.
Yeah. A good number of institutions, they may not have their own, wherewithal or infrastructure to get those, important, these summer internships or any other internship, whatever name you could give. So that is where certain companies or certain groups or which are there in a market who can help you to get that appropriate internship within the country and outside the country. Now, this internship would provide you a great exposure of reality of your job.
Right.
Having done internship, you understand what is required out of you on the job. So as a student, I become far more knowledgeable, or I start realizing what I need to do to become worthy of job in the industry.
Right.
So we as a university has put a lot of importance on this aspect. That means not just engineering and management. For us, every program, every degree program has an internship inbuilt.
Okay.
Every, whether it is say for example fine arts or a journalism
Right.
or a BSc,
Right.
any program.
Okay.
You take any program, there is a 2 months internship
Is there?
is there. Subsequently, we are planning to make it much more longer.
Right.
You know, like if you look at institutions like BITS Pilani,
Right.
wherein they have two types of internship. 2 months, that is they call PS1, 6 months, that is PS2.
Right.
Their basic idea is to reduce content and bring more practice in the learning.
Right.
And that is what internships can do. And I suggest every student must take this as a serious, not as an holiday.
Right.
That trend must change. And for that, if industry is looking for trained and skilled people, they must also spare time for such interns. If they don't spare time and demand from the university a trained and skilled people, these are contradictory.